I can see people are still joining in, so I will just give it a minute and then we'll start. I will just start sharing my screen in the meanwhile. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, visible.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody who's confirming. Okay, if it's not visible for a few of you, you can try rejoining and I think then it'll work. It might be some glitch. Okay, I think we can start. Most of you have joined, and the rest of you can join in the meanwhile. So, hi everyone, a very good afternoon to each and one present here. Thank you for being here. My name is Hanspreet Kaur, and I'm a soft skills trainer, corporate trainer, an interview coach, resume building expert, and an education content creator on Instagram and LinkedIn. So, I am going to start this series for you all. I think this is your first one. I'm not very sure. Um, I've done this for the previous semesters as well, and it's always been a good interactive session. So I would request you all, if you have any questions, please type it in the chat so that I can take them all by the end of today's session. Um, so today's session, as you can see on the screen, is all about how to build an ATS-friendly resume, right? Now, ATS has become the need of the hour. And while some of you know what ATS is, I want to know and I want to understand what's the ratio of people knowing and not knowing about ATS. So, in case there are some of you who know what ATS stands for, I would request you all to type it in the chat box before I begin. Once again, if my screen is not visible, please try rejoining because it's visible for most of you. Great, getting some quick responses. Applicant tracking system, not application tracking system. So I'm glad that a few of you know what ATS stands for, and that is something that we will be talking about today. If you already know what ATS is and how it works, that's great. You will be able to get probably more insights on that. For some of you, you might just know what ATS stands for. You might not know how to build an ATS friendly resume. So we will delve deep into that today. Now, I don't want to keep talking today, but this session specifically is more about me telling you what ATS is. So I will keep asking questions. And in case I feel like some of you or most of you already know what it is, I will skip through that part to the next one, right? Because I want to just talk to you all about what you don't know rather than, just delving into something you already know. All right. So let's begin with an analysis. So this is a guy who is again a resume expert. His name is Austin Belkak, and he did some analysis, right? Now, there's this number on the screen. Can some of you take a guess what this number could be? I want quick responses, quick guesses so that I can move ahead quickly. I've told you he's a resume building expert. I told you he did an analysis. So what do you think this number stands for? Applicants, okay, no, it's not right. Okay, so I can see two correct responses, which is the number of resumes he scanned or the number of applications he analyzed, which means these are the number of resumes that he analyzed. And based on that, he came to certain conclusions, right? And we will have to understand those conclusions first in order to understand how resumes work. So I'm not delving into ATS right now, but whatever he analyzed and whatever his analysis has been, that is also going to be a part, an integral part of what ATS is. So we will talk about that. Now let's look at his analysis. So as some of you already told me, it's the number of resumes that he analyzed. These are the main 5 analyses that he made. The first one is that adding your LinkedIn profile is crucial, which means in his analysis, he felt that this was missing in a lot of resumes. So whenever you're creating your resume, your LinkedIn profile should be hyperlinked into your resume so that by one click of a button, the recruiter can actually go and visit your LinkedIn profile. Now, when they visit your LinkedIn profile, it should not be blank, right? So you have to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is also up to date and optimized. We will be discussing this also in the upcoming session. I will do a separate session on LinkedIn optimization. But for now, all you need to remember is that adding a link to your LinkedIn profile and your LinkedIn profile being up to date is extremely important. Why? Because your LinkedIn profile is also known as an extended version of your resume. Now, when I will come to ATS, you will understand that there are a lot of things that, we are restricted by when it comes to ATS. And therefore, whatever restrictions we are facing while creating a resume, by making it ATS friendly, we will be able to cover those things, or we will be able to showcase those things to the recruiter through our LinkedIn profile. And that's why it's called the extended version of your resume. That was his first analysis, that adding your LinkedIn profile is very important. Now, the second thing is including the right keywords. Now, look at this point. This is something we will discuss when we come to ATS also. Whenever you apply for a job, you get a job description, right? Now, that job description has your tasks and responsibilities mentioned within it, which means that it will talk about what are they looking for in a candidate, what are the tasks you will have to perform, and what is it that they want you to already have, or skills that they want you to already possess, because that will make you the right fit for the job, right? So, according to Austin Belkak, 43 keywords, at least 43 keywords should be there in your resume from your job description. Now, when he says 43 keywords, that is based on his analysis, right? But the point that you have to take care of is as many as keywords you can add from your job description to your resume, the chances of you getting hired increases because it becomes more ATS friendly. Now, I'm just dropping you little hints about ATS. For those who don't know, I will discuss this in detail when we come to the ATS part. So I can see a question: for every job application, should we change the resume? The answer is partially yes. And how can you do that? I will tell you. So you don't have to get overwhelmed by the fact that, oh my God, I created my resume once. It was anyway such a big hassle and now I have to keep recreating it. I will tell you a method that you can do that. And once you fall into the practice, initially it's going to be a little hard, but once you fall into that practice, you will just need 15 minutes before applying for any job. All right. So 43 keywords is what Austin Belkak says. If you're a fresher, I understand 43 keywords could be a lot for some of you. So your target should be to match or to add as many keywords as you can. They should naturally blend. They shouldn't look forced. And of course, if you're somebody who has great experience, 43 keywords should not be an issue. Then he says including measurable results, which is where I will be discussing the XYZ formula. Let's skip this for now. I'll come to that in the next slide. The fourth thing that he says is that the length of your resume should be 475 to 600 words, right? We cannot make it too lengthy. If I just have to talk to you in terms of pages, if you have less than 10 years of experience, your resume should not exceed 1 page. If you have more than 10 years of experience, it can spill over to 2 pages, but nothing more than 2 pages at all, because then that becomes a CV and not a resume. A quick difference between CV and resume: CV is usually used for academic purposes. For example, if you're going for PhD or higher studies, you will need to give a lot of analysis and details. That is what a curriculum vitae or CV is. We casually keep replacing these two words, CV and resume, but the right word is resume, because a resume is supposed to be 1 page as a fresher and 2 pages as a person with experience of more than 10 years, right? Okay, the last one. He says a big no to buzzwords and cliches. Now, what are buzzwords and cliches? This is also something that we will discuss. Out of the 1,25,484 resumes that he analyzed, he saw that 51% resumes had buzzwords, which means more than half of the resumes had buzzwords or cliches. Now, we'll look at what it is in a minute. But first, let's discuss the XYZ formula, because I told you you have to include measurable results, which is the third point. I have a question. I'll quickly take that first. Okay, if you have an experience of 5 years, it should again be just 1 page. Anything below 10 years should be 1 page. Anything above 10 years should be 2 pages. I mean, can be 2 pages. It's not necessary. But then, of course, two is the maximum limit for somebody with experience as well. I hope that's clear. Now let's discuss the XYZ formula, and then I will give you a small activity also. Again, for a fresher, 1 page. Anything less than 10 years, 1 page. Just remember that. All right. Okay, now I want you to focus on the XYZ formula, because it's important while you're framing your sentences. Now I know most of you might just be going to ChatGPT to get your answers and extract your answers about, what to write in your resume. That's okay. I'm not saying that's completely wrong, but it is wrong to a level that we get so lazy and we get so caught up with the ChatGPT trend and generation that we completely rely on it. Now, if you're taking help of ChatGPT to frame sentences under your work experience, right? You have to tweak it in your own language, because recruiters these days have, or on a daily basis, they scan thousands and lakhs of resumes, and it's this easy to understand if your sentences were written by you or if they were written by ChatGPT, right? I will take the questions in a bit. I will just discuss this and then I'll come to it, okay, before after the XYZ formula. Now, what is XYZ formula? Now, you all know under every experience section, we write what are the tasks we did in that job, right? When we were working there. Now, for example, if I'm a trainer, I will write delivered 250 plus hours of training, or created 250 courses in a span of 3 years, right? Something like that. Now, what happens a lot of times is that we just focus on X. Now, what is X? What did you do? Now, if I write delivered 250 plus hours of training, right? Or if I just say delivered training, let's even forget 250 plus hours. Delivered trainings, okay? What does it tell about me? That I just delivered trainings. But then what about trainings? How did I get to it? What happened? What was the number? That is what we always have missing somewhere or the other, right? So it's very important to integrate your sentences and mix the X with Y and Z. What is Y? By what amount? So if I say deliver 250 plus hours of training, or I could also add two amounts. How? Deliver 250 plus hours of training over a span of 3 months. You see, I have mentioned in how much time I have delivered those trainings, and I have also mentioned how many hours of training have I delivered, right? So that will be your amount. It could be the time, it could be the task, it could be numbers, statistics, sales, whatever field you're from. Try to find what the number is relevant over there. That is how you add numbers to your sentences. Z. What did you do to achieve that amount? Right? Now, for example, I say conducted a resume building session for 60 students that led to a placement percentage of 60% of them. Okay, I'm just giving you rough examples, which means what? I have mentioned amount and I have mentioned what did I do, but I didn't mention what did I do to achieve the amount. So I could have said, conducted a resume building session for 50 students, which led to 60% placements by explaining them how to create an effective ATS-friendly resume. Now I'm telling them that I did take a session on resume building, but what did I do to achieve that amount? What did I do to achieve the amount of 60% people getting placed? What did I do for that? I told you how to create an ATS-friendly resume. That is what I did. Are you understanding? So, mentioning what you did, by what amount, and how you reach that amount is important. Now, I understand that when you're mentioning your tasks, it's not something which is easily done in all sentences. I understand if you have done 4 tasks, you cannot add numbers or you cannot add the reason for every one of them. But your task is to focus on as much as you can, right? That is your focus. If you can combine X and Y, good. If you can combine X and Z, good. If you can combine all X, Y, Z, brilliant. X is something which is going to be constant because that is something you'll mention. If you can add Y and Z with it, it's brilliant. If you can add one of these with it, it's great. So I disagree with you why when you say that, adding XYZ formula, the resume is going to be bigger from one page. No, you'll have to see how you can have shorter sentences. I have helped so many candidates make an ATS-friendly resume, and it doesn't happen. It does not exceed one page. If you use the right template, the right format, it will not happen. I will show you a few samples and you will understand how. But before that, let me show you a sentence example. So for a fresher or anybody, right? Now I understand for freshers, XYZ can be difficult. Okay. Maybe the amount is something you can't define, right? Because as a fresher, you're doing tasks where you're not actually dealing with numbers, right? But you can mention what did you do and how did you do it, right? So for a fresher, if it's difficult, you can combine X and Z. I'm sure Z is something you can definitely find out. So try to combine X and Z if you're struggling with Y. Font size and everything I'll come to later because I haven't come to the ATS part yet. Okay, so yeah, I will show you some samples. Okay, I will give you an example of a sentence right now. Now, before I show this, let me tell you. Now, let's take an example of a fresher. Okay, there's this person who was a social media intern in an organization. See, I've come down to internship. I'm completely talking about a fresher here. Okay, now this person managed ABC company's Instagram page. Okay. Now, this is what he or she has written in their resume, managed ABC company's Instagram page. But that is so vague because you have only mentioned X, right? How can you move it from X to XYZ or just XZ or XY is this. Revamped ABC's Instagram page by using DEF strategy. It could be a name of a marketing or a social media strategy that you've learned, which would be what? Z, right? So revamped ABC's Instagram page is X. By using a certain strategy is Z, which led to an increase in revenue by 20% is Y. So while you were managing that Instagram page, you used a certain strategy due to which the company's sales increased by 20%. That is how you use X, Y, and Z, right? Now, I know this can be a little tricky. You all might be from different fields, from different experience. So before we actually move ahead, I want you all to actually soak this in. Take 2 minutes and I have a small task for you. Think of a field that you're from or that you want to work in. Assume that you have done an internship in that field. If you're a fresher, you will assume you're doing an internship. If you're somebody with experience, you can think of any work experience. I want you all to frame any one sentence for practice using the XYZ formula, which mentions all 3 elements. Just try it and keep putting it on the chat box, right? So I will wait for about 2 minutes and I want quick answers, quick responses. If you're struggling with it, type it. I will help you with it, right? And then we will move ahead. Because for you to understand and completely soak in this part is very important before we move ahead. Also, I understand that not everybody is good with framing sentences, and some of you might feel the sentences are too long. But once you've created that in mind, once you have the idea, once you have XYZ, this is where you should use AI tools like ChatGPT. Once you have a long sentence or something which you feel can be tweaked or can be shortened, tell ChatGPT to shorten it for you. That is how you use ChatGPT, not by telling him or telling ChatGPT to completely do it for you, right? So give them the idea, give the AI tool your idea, and then take help in sentence structuring. If you're an accountant, I'm sure you can use amounts, you can use numbers. You will have to know how to play with it, right? So try framing a sentences and then we can see. Okay, we already have an answer. Wow, you all are pretty quick. Great. I like all the answers. They are good. Some of them can be refined a little. Very nice. I really like them all. And see, if you, I just want to read this one out loud because I feel it's very simple and it will be easy for others to also understand. So, Mehna has written recruited 50 employees within 2 weeks using online recruitment platforms. So, see, it's that sweet and simple, right? Of course, you have if you have a more advanced kind of a career background, you will use heavy words, right? But I just wanted to speak this example out because it helps others understand it in a very simpler manner. Okay, let me go ahead. All right, I will explain the Z part once again. So, if you see in the sentence, revamped ABC's Instagram page by using DEF strategy, right? So, if you are a person in a particular field, you will use some strategy, right? If you're in marketing, there will be some marketing strategy you'll use. I will only give my example because I will talk about my career. Since I'm a trainer, if I am conducting a resume building session for 50 students and the result was that 60% of them got placed, what is the Z part that I'm using? The Z part that I'm using is going to be by explaining them strategies on how to build an ATS friendly resume. So I am talking about a resume building session. I told you that 60% got placed, but how did they get placed? What did I do to reach that amount of 60%? By telling them strategies on how to create an ATS friendly resume. Is it clear now, Aditi? What do you mean by profile percentage here? Okay, I'm just quickly going through. There are so many messages, but I'm really liking this. I like the spirit of how you all are just trying to practice. So for students applying for jobs or if you're freshers, it's okay if you don't have the Y part. Don't stress about it. As I said, focus on X and Z as freshers. If you do have Y, great. If you don't, just don't end with X. Try to find Z in some way or the other. If even if you're doing an internship, right, you might have followed a certain strategy or a certain way to reach or complete your tasks, right? So that is when X and Z comes in together. Okay, I really like almost all the answers. They are great. They were great attempts. Again, if you feel like your sentences are too long, write your sentence that you've created using your own human brain to ChatGPT and take help of ChatGPT to shorten it. That's the kind of help you need of AI, right? So thank you so much for participating. I love that so many of you responded and so many of you had a great attempt of trying out the XYZ formula. Okay, let's move on. But before moving on, I think I had more questions. Let me just quickly go through them. Okay. Okay, 25 plus years of experience, you have a challenge in restricting your resume to 2 pages. See, I understand there will always be a challenge. I know people who have less than 10 years of experience and they still feel they have so much to say, right? Now, it is your responsibility as an individual to filter out what is relevant and what is not. When you have 25 plus years of experience, your education section becomes irrelevant, more or less irrelevant, right? Now, when you're a fresher, I'm sure most freshers here agree they will write their 10th degree, 12th degree marks, and then graduation, and then masters, and however that you want, right? But when somebody has 25 plus years of experience or even 5 plus years of experience, you don't mention your school grades or marks, right? So in general, I'm saying that your education section becomes a little less important than your work experience. If you have 25 plus years of experience, you might have worked in 4, 5, 6, 7 organizations, right? So whatever tasks you've done in each organization, if you have 6 pointers, cut them down to 3, right? You will also make sure there's one more thing that I can tell you. Again, I will discuss this when we come to the LinkedIn optimization session in the next few weeks. But since I told you to add a link to your LinkedIn profile, if you feel like your resume is exceeding and you have more pointers to say, make sure that in your resume that you're submitting, you are just mentioning 3 points instead of six, okay? Or 4 points instead of six. If you have more pointers, write them in your experience section on your LinkedIn profile. There's a place there also that you can do that, right? So focus on writing sentences in your resume which have keywords matching to the job description that you're applying for, and any other tasks that you've done which you also want to mention, just put them on your LinkedIn and you'll be good to go. Okay, there are more messages. Let me just see. So the last question. Do you recommend putting a picture in your CV? First, let's call it resume. This is something I will come to very shortly, so please just hold on. I have seen IIM candidate resume that was only 1 page and they have mentioned entire keywords. Great. I will also show you the IIM sample soon. See, I told you what the difference between a resume or a CV is. So if you're actually applying for jobs, I would recommend you to just focus on your resume, which should be one year as a fresher. Okay. Okay. Let's move ahead. Okay. XYZ is clear. I hope that it's clear. I like that you all practiced it. And if you keep practicing it, I'm sure you will refine it eventually. Now let's come to what is ATS. You don't have to mention your birth details in your resume. Contact information, you should. I will come to that also shortly. ATS refers to applicant tracking system, like most of you already know. What is it? It is a computer software. It ranks your resume and it matches it to the job description. The higher ranking you get, more chances you have of getting hired. So it's extremely important for us to understand that even if you're somebody with great education, great experience, sometimes a lot of people struggle thinking that I have the perfect work experience and history and resume, but then why am I not getting a call from my employer? That's because it's not even reaching the recruiter and you are actually being rejected by a software. I'm sure none of you want to get rejected by a software. So what's the trick here? Since in the past few years, the world, or not the world, some specific countries are moving to using ATS software to scan your resumes before it actually reaches the recruiter, you have to make sure your resume is ATS friendly. So India, in a lot of companies in India, people are using ATS. In Canada, in US, In a lot of parts of Europe, people are not doing that. They are still following the old school method of adding a picture and making a very beautiful and colorful resume. So it's very important to also know what is the place you're applying to, what are the demographics, if you're applying for a job in Europe, or if it's in India, or if it's in US, Canada. Again, when I talk about countries like India, US, Canada, you cannot be sure which companies are using ATS and which are not. And therefore, it's highly recommended that you anyways create a resume which is ATS friendly, so that you are at least not rejected by a software. What this software will do is it will rank your resumes based on certain parameters. The higher ranking you get, your the chances of your resume reaching the recruiter are higher. Now, when they get lakhs of applications, they don't have the chance to go through each one of them. So they have eased their process by using this software. If there are 100 applications, they will go through it. If they want just 10 final applications, they will tell the ATS software to scan it. They will just pick the top 10 and then they will look at your resume. So I'm sure you don't want to get rejected by a software. Therefore, it's important we ace how to create an ATS friendly resume so that it at least reaches the recruiter. All right. Okay. Now, we all know now that it ranks your resume, matches it to JD. Now, when I say matches it to JD, you remember Austin Belkac's analysis? He said there should be 43 keywords in your resume from your job description. Why is that so in terms of being it ATS friendly? ATS also compares the similar words that you have mentioned in your resume to the job description. So if you have a lot of words which are same as the job description in your resume, ATS will give you a higher ranking. There are a lot of other parameters also that ATS goes through, right? And for that also, I will just tell you what are some criteria that ATS needs to focus on, and then we can go ahead. Okay. So, the first one is format. Your format should be ATS friendly, which is what I will show you some samples and you will see how you should format your resume. Word doc. Now, a lot of you might think that, I can download so many templates online through platforms like Canva or Resume Worded, and there are a lot of platforms out there. What you do is you just download it, you put your information there, and you're good to go. But ATS cannot a lot of times recognize a lot of files. So if your resume is in a Word document, it will help you make it more ATS friendly, and the readability of that software will be more. At the end of the day, you have to understand that it's just a software, right? So it has restrictions, and these are the restrictions that we will talk about. These are the things that you will have to take care of in case you want it to be ATS friendly. So creating it in a Word doc is extremely important. PDF is okay, but then it should be a Word doc converted to PDF, right? Of course, it should be a PDF at the end of the day, because then you will have your links and everything for your LinkedIn. But it should be a Word doc converted to a PDF. Now, some people might not agree. They might feel that other things also work, but I have a huge bias towards Word doc. I feel it always works. It's the safest choice. So do go forward with it. I will also share a document which has some Word doc based resume templates. So you don't have to worry about creating your resume from scratch. I will share it with the concerned person and they can put it on your portal or share it with you. You can simply pick any resume that you like from there. It's a Word doc, and then create yours over there, right? So therefore, it's very important to have it on Word doc for readability. Fonts. You should use simple to understand fonts. ATS does not understand very complicated fonts. When you create your resume on platforms like Canva, it has very fancy fonts. And a lot of times you don't realize that you should change it. So what happens is ATS is not able to read those fonts. Therefore, if you're creating it on Word doc, you should make sure that you're going ahead with simpler fonts. Now, what are these simpler fonts? Arial, Times New Roman, Calibri, right? We all use this all the time. So these are the top 3 fonts that I recommend. Simple, easy to understand fonts is something ATS will understand. Word doc is editable, that is good. But when you're actually sending it to the recruiter, obviously you will convert your Word doc into a PDF file. The point is you make it on a Word doc and then convert it into PDF, right? You will not send them an editable version. It is advisable to have a single font throughout the resume. Yes, you will not use different fonts. When I say Arial, Times New Roman, and Calibri, doesn't mean you'll blend all three. Either use Arial or use Times New Roman or use Calibri. So choose one font, make it consistent. The most important part of your resume to look very nice and presentable is consistency. There should be consistency in your font size, in the way you're typing it, and your formatting. The third one that we have here is what? Your font size. 10 to 12, right? So technically, I would suggest when you write your name, you can keep it to 14. Subheadings could be 12 and your main content could be 10. You can tweak around. It's not hard and fast, but the ideal ratio should be 10 to 12. Nothing more than that, nothing less than that, right? Of course, if you feel like, you're just a little bit of your part is getting hampered, it's moving to the next page, you can increase or decrease a bit, but this is the ideal suggested font size. You can highlight the important parts in the sentences that you write using the XYZ formula. You can make them bold, certain words. If you feel like they're important words that you want them to notice, it's a good thing to do, but it's nothing to do with ATS. You can do that. ATS will anyways read your words. It doesn't matter if it's bold or italics. But of course, if ATS has given your resume a higher ranking, when the recruiter goes through your resume, it will be helpful because the recruiter is not going to read your complete resume. Do you all know how much time does the recruiter spend on each resume? Like what's the average? It's not 10 seconds. That's a lot. It's 3 seconds. 2 to 5 minutes. It's 3 seconds, literally. So if you're actually writing it in a very, very concise manner, it'll be very helpful. Why? Because the recruiter will just scan through it. It will look or they will look for the highlighted words and quickly see how you are and then call you for the interview. Right? 10 might seem too small. That's okay. You can keep it 11. I'm just telling you an average ratio. I have created my resumes in 10 to 12 and they don't look that bad once you convert them into PDF. I have just told you that this is the ideal size. There's no hard and fast. If 10 is small, you can use 11, 12, 12.5, 13. That's okay. Just keep it below 14, right? 14 also for just your name, not the headings, right? For subheadings, I think 12, 12.5 is okay and nothing less than 10. Of course, if it's a lot of information and just a bit is left and you're not able to fit in, you could go for a 9, 9.5, but nothing less than 10 or nothing more than 12.5. At initial screen, ATS rejects the resume, not the humans. That's what we're talking about, right? Recruiter a lot of times is not even seeing your resume because ATS is rejecting it. Your resume should pass through ATS for it to reach the recruiter. Right? That is what is very important. Okay. Yeah, you can highlight your keywords and you have to mention important keywords because of course, um, the recruiter is spending very less time on your resume. So it's important that you highlight the keywords if needed and you make sure that you're writing crisp, short sentences with bullet points so that it's easy. It has easy readability for both ATS and for the recruiter as well. Now let's come to keywords. We've already talked twice. 43 keywords is what Austin Belkak says. The point is try to inculcate as many keywords as you can from your job description to your resume and your ATS score will be higher. Okay. The next part is no graphics and visuals. So somebody asked me in the chat, is it advisable to add your profile picture or your picture to your resume? No. ATS cannot read graphics and visuals. It cannot do that at all. So if you add a picture for ATS, it's just a blank part. It cannot read it, right? So you should never add your picture in your resume if you are creating an ATS-friendly resume. Now, I told you in a lot of parts of Europe, ATS is not used. I did a course with the UN, and we had a session on resume building. And that lady specifically told us or taught us to make a resume in a way that I can never even imagine creating that kind of resume in India. There was a picture, there were colors, it was pretty, it was bright, but that's not something that ATS can scan. So it's very important to do your research on what company it is, which country are you applying to, which job are you applying to. Now, of course, if you're applying for the role of an actor, whatever your profile is going to be, we don't call it a resume, it will have picture, right? So it completely depends upon a lot of factors. But since I'm completely focusing on what the major chunk here looks for, which is corporate jobs, no graphics or visuals. Now there are more parts to graphics or visuals like shapes, bars, graphs. A big no to that too. I will show you in the samples how you do not have to do it. I will just show you the samples in a bit. Please just stay patient. Just one last thing, which we've already discussed. Your LinkedIn profile, it helps you build your brand. It shows more credibility. And since we cannot add our pictures or a lot of other information to our resume, your LinkedIn will be a place where the recruiter can actually have a look at these things. So your target, your first target is to not get rejected by ATS. And then you move to the part where it reaches the recruiter, where they can read the stuff, and where they can also go through your LinkedIn profile. So these are the 6 main pointers that you have to take care of while creating an ATS friendly resume. If your ATS score is 79, it's still getting rejected. I cannot orally tell you why it is getting rejected. You will obviously have to factor in a lot of other things. Maybe you don't have enough keywords. Maybe other people, or other people who are your competitors for the same profile, maybe their resume or their experience was better than yours. There could be a lot of factors. It doesn't always have to be with why your ATS score you felt was good and you did not get the job. Maybe try applying for other jobs, try tweaking it to the job description, and you will get a better answer. But if you're following all of these things that I've just mentioned, the chances of you not getting shortlisted is less. As I said, there could be other factors. On LinkedIn, when I'm, for example, there's a job opening, right? It says this job opening was posted by the company 10 minutes ago. And then I see 100 applications already submitted. That is also something that matters, right? So if they are looking at ATS, 100 applications are already there, right? So you see how much competition you have. Maybe those 100 applicants have more experience than you. They have way more ATS score than you do. There could be a lot of factors. Maybe the company is not using ATS at all, right? Maybe they are just looking at the first few resumes and rejecting the rest. There could be a lot of factors. The point is not to get disheartened. Focus on creating a strong ATS friendly resume. If you did not get one job, you will get another job. ATS does not guarantee you a job. But of course, if you do not use ATS or you don't make it ATS friendly, of course, your chances reduce even more. There's no hard and fast specific ATS score for you to get shortlisted. Again, as I said, it should be good. It should follow all the parameters that we've discussed. And the rest depends a lot on the company, on the job profile, right? Maybe if you're somebody with 2 years of experience and they said the work experience required is 2 to 5 years, they will obviously give preference to somebody with 5 years, right? Because they have more experience than you. So as I said, there could be a lot of other factors as well. Now let's come to the samples part. Is it required to change keywords every time for a different? Yes, I will get to the keywords and job description part in a bit. Okay, Sonali, please give me some time. I just want to discuss the samples now and then we will come to it. So, do you guys think both of these are good samples based on whatever we've discussed? Which one is good? Which one is not? Can I have some answers in the chat? Okay. It's really sad to see that there are mixed answers because after I have discussed so much about ATS, I'm feeling sad that a lot of you think that the right one is also good. Both are bad examples in 2025. Why? The left one looks very non-formatted. It doesn't look neat and tidy. It looks very blanked out, right? It could still work if we have to call it ATS friendly, but the right one definitely does not work. Why? There are colors, firstly. Even if I say colors are okay, like I told you colors are a big no, but even if I have to let that go, do you see the person has used graphics or graphs to explain his skills and to explain the language proficiency? Now, communication, it's a full bar. Organizing, it's a little less. Leadership, little less. For languages, again, he has put certain circles. Do you think ATS can read all of this? ATS is not that smart. We discussed every problem that ATS has. We discussed whatever we need to focus on. When I said no visuals and graphics, when I said no visuals and graphics, this is a part of visuals and graphics, and therefore it's a big no. Do you think the logos mentioned above for LinkedIn, for location, for phone number, for email, do you think ATS can read that? No, it cannot, right? Okay, let's look at some worse examples. Now you both can tell the left one is really bad. Like, I think the left one is the kind of resume which would work in parts of Europe, like my UN mentor told me. There's a picture, it's very nice, colorful. You see areas of expertise mentioned over here. You see that? It's in boxes. What are boxes? It's a shape. Does ATS read shape? No. So, despite the fact that this person has mentioned, whatever areas of expertise they have, for ATS, this whole section is going to be blank because it's written inside the shapes. So you miss out on telling your ATS or recruiter so many things that you've done. In the right one, again, you see those bars and like those little dots. ATS can't read that. You have to keep it extremely simple. All right. So again, we have seen some other bad examples. Now, let's look at the good ones. IIM and ISBs. We know these both are like the OG MBA colleges in the country. These people have specific courses on how to build an ATS friendly resume, and these are the formats that they use. Sadly, other colleges in India are not taught how to build ATS friendly resumes. I have myself been in colleges where nobody ever taught me this. I have done quite some research in the past few years to be able to create this deck and create awareness in other colleges, because why deprive the other colleges or students of this knowledge which ISB and IIMs are providing? Do you see how black and white and plain it is? Do you see how cramped it is into one page, yet it looks neat? Now, some of you might say that in the right one or in the left one, there are tables. If you're using, the table creating part in Word, that is not a shape. So you can use that. However, I would still request, or I would still have my bias towards the right one. That is the more popular one. But there is one thing which is missing in these resumes, according to Austin Belkak. Can you all tell me what it is? Wow. I really like this. You are a very smart people. This is something people don't usually realize, but great. Very good job. LinkedIn profile is not mentioned, right? So that is something which should be mentioned, and it should also be hyperlinked. These are some good formats which are used in IIM and ISBs. As I told you, I will share a document with you. It will have similar templates. You can just pick those up, put your information out there and convert it into PDF, hyperlink your LinkedIn profile, and you'll be good to go, right? So now I hope it's all clear when we talked about ATS, what needs to be added, what does not need to be added, and I have shown you some samples of good and bad CVs. And yeah, that is how you create an ATS-friendly resume, right? Now, the logo on the left CV. Which logo are we talking about here? I'm not sure. Oh, on the top right. No, that's just a sample because I told you it's an IIM sample. Um, in the last line, I mean, I would say avoid it. You see in the right one, it's not there. I mean, I would still say avoid it because ATS can't read it, right? So just simply mention, like in the right one, if you see on the top, if they've just simply mentioned, right? So you can just let it go. Logos is something ATS will never be able to read. So letting it go, I think, is the best option. Okay, in the right one also, is there a logo? One second. No, I don't see a logo. I mean, if there are logos, you would skip it, right? That is what I would suggest. So, I mean, I wish they have an updated version of ATS that can read graphics, but that's not the case right now. An employer can read this in 3 seconds, okay? Because they read so many resumes on an everyday basis that they don't have to read it. They will just look at it and they will know what is the part that they have to focus on and they will be good to go. Anyways, ATS has done half of their work, right? So they will just quickly skim through it. And 3 seconds was an average. I'm not saying every individual is going to spend 3 seconds, but based on research and analysis done in the past, 3 seconds is the average that they spend. Your home address need not be mentioned. You can just mention the city you're from in case you feel that's relevant. Okay, the IIM one has mentioned the LinkedIn. I can just see the email ID. I don't think it's LinkedIn. But anyways, that's not the point here. The point is that your LinkedIn profile should be hyperlinked. And the point is that logos and pictures and graphics should be avoided. And of course, XYZ formula we have discussed. There's one more thing which, I think I skipped in one of the slides. I told you that 51% resumes have buzzwords and cliches, right? What are buzzwords and cliches? Buzzwords and cliches are basically words like hardworking, focused, dedicated. I mean, most of the resumes that we see have these words, right? Now, I'm not saying you have to completely eradicate them because it's also said that cliches are cliches because they work, right? But the point here is to stand out. What makes your resume stand out from the others? Avoiding cliches. So this is something I'm not going to delve deep into because this is something you can do it on your own. If you do a simple Google search and you just write buzzwords and cliches in resume, it will give you a list. Once you're done creating your resume, just try to look for words if you have similar words. If you have some buzzwords or cliches, try to replace them with some good words, not very fancy, complicated words, but maybe some other words so that your resume stands out from the rest. Yes, the resumes that I just showed you are made in Word doc. See, I just told you these are the resumes that they make in IIM and ISB, which means that they're not completely like for experienced people. I understand they have some experience, but even for freshers, you don't have to worry about, filling it so much. As I told you, I will share a document with you all. It has some templates, and there you will be able to see how even for freshers this works. Okay. Um, you can add your internships if you have more than 3.5 years of experience, but you have to see if it's relevant or not. Now, if your 3.5 years of experience has a lot of information that you think is sufficient for a one-page resume, you can skip your internship. If you feel there's little space, you can mention it in brief. If you think your resume is still looking empty after 3.5 years of experience, you can mention it. So you are the best judge of what you have to add and what you do not have to add. So again, each time you want to apply for a job, you should develop a new resume. This is something I will discuss right now. Okay. I will share it with the concerned person from Amity and they will put it on your portal or share it with you on some group, but I will make sure it reaches you. So don't worry about that. All right, now let's come to the last part of this section, job description. Read the job description thoroughly. Now, how do you actually tweak your resume every time you're applying for a job? Now, you might think, every time I have to create a new resume, every time. That might be too difficult, right? So, what are you supposed to do? I know it will be a little time consuming initially, but once you apply for 4, 5 jobs, you will get into the practice, you will get the hang of it. Okay. Now, what are you supposed to do? You created your resume once. Let's assume you had one job description in mind and you created your resume based on that, or you created it generally. Okay. Now, if you're applying, what a lot of people do, and I'm sure like 99% of you do this, you create your resume, you see 10 job openings and you apply it. And then you wonder why you're not getting callbacks, right? You've created one resume. Now you're applying for another job. Now, what are the steps you need to follow? Read the job description thoroughly of the new job that you're going to apply to. In that job description, mark all the relevant keywords and skills which you think are relatable to you or which you think are relevant to your resume. Okay, you read it once, read it twice, gain an understanding. It's not very long, it's a very short document, and mark all those important keywords and skills. Now, the resume that you have already created, try to match how many words are there which are already mentioned in your resume, and then you also add words which you think you can. Now it should be naturally blended. So you might see some, keywords or skills in the resume which you might not have mentioned or which you might have mentioned in another language. So just change the tone or language of your sentences in a way that from this job description also you're able to add new words or you're able to match the words into your resume. Trust me, initially 2 times, 3 times, it will take time, but post that, it's just a 15-minute job. You have your resume, you quickly go through the job description, you mark the keywords and skills, and you just try to put them into your resume, and that's the end of it. That's how you create your resume again and again, but it takes just 15 minutes. I know a lot of us are even lazy to spend those 15 minutes because we are like, we've already created it, but we know how tough the job market has become. We know how the competition is so high. So if you just spare 15 minutes of your time to put this effort, you'll be good to go. And that's the end of it. I would request you all to please scan this and fill the feedback form. Otherwise, I will be answerable to personage. So I would really request you all, because we just have 3 minutes left. You can type in some questions if you have. I will stay for the next 5 minutes, but please scan this, fill the feedback form. Another thing that I want to tell you all is that since I told you I'm also an education content creator, I have posted a lot of videos on Instagram on resume building tips and interview tips. In case you wish to, refer to those before any of your interviews, you can. I am just typing my ID here. Since, a lot of questions, if they were unanswered, you can actually go through my page and you can go down and, watch those videos to get a better understanding. So that is something you could do. The template link, as I told you, I will send it to you. For the recording of the session, you'll have to talk to your Amity staff. And if you want to connect with me further, again, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or on Instagram. And, we can see how we can take it forward from there. There's also my email ID. And what else? Okay, Zainab, I missed your message. You said, please explain in brief. What is it that you want me to explain in brief? Can you please type again? Okay, so for language proficiency, you can just write. So if it's a certification that you've gained in a language, right? Like for example, I have done French and I have done it from Alliance Francaise. So they give us certifications, right? So in my certification section, I could mention level B1 Alliance Francaise French. So similarly, you can add it in the certification section, or you could create a separate section for language proficiency and mention it there. So if you don't have any experience, try to focus on what you've done in college. Try to focus on a few internships you've done. If you have not done that, also, I would tell you to take up a few online courses, do those, mention it, and start building your resume from there. I know it can be very difficult as a fresher. You feel like it's all blank, but you have to start somewhere, right? So mention a few online courses, some internships, some very relevant things that you might have done in college, and you'll be good to go. You can remove your experience if you feel like the 2 3 other domains are not useful, but in case you feel like, see, skills are transferable. It's a very important thing that we all know. I have worked in different industry before this, but I figure out a lot of transferable skills. So if you think in the previous domains you have had skills which come in handy even in this job, you can mention it, but as I told you, you're the best judge of what needs to be added and what needs not to be added. What about LinkedIn profile? I told you I will do a separate session on LinkedIn profile in the coming few weeks. You don't necessarily have to give URLs for certificates and projects unless they ask for it. The only URL or the link that you have to provide is for your LinkedIn. Yes, so thank you. Somebody wrote feedback submitted. If others could also please quickly do it, it'll be really helpful. How to hyperlink the profile? It's not that easy. It's not that difficult. Sorry. When you go on Word doc, you just type in, you just copy paste your LinkedIn profile. Okay, just copy the link, select it. There's an option of add link, right? So you click on add link, you paste the link there, and it will become blue. It's not very difficult. If you want, I can show it to you next time as well. So I would really suggest you all to reach out to me on LinkedIn if in case you want something extremely professional. Um, I will be able to guide you there better instead of sharing my email ID here and being bombarded with it. I'm sure I'll not get the time to respond. My LinkedIn ID, sure, I can share it here. Just give me 1 second.
Ma'am, can I end the meeting now?
Just give me 1 minute.
Okay.
It's right here. And once again, I'm just sharing this for another minute. Please just scan this if you haven't yet, and I will, and then we can, we'll be good to close. It's not accurate, the personal information, it's just samples. You don't have to worry about that. All right. I hope you all have scanned it. Thank you so much for attending this session. I hope it was helpful. And I will see you very soon to discuss LinkedIn and discuss a few more things in one of the sessions. All right. Thank you. Bye. We can close the session now.